My name is Brisa De Angulo and I'm the CEO and founder of a Breeze of Hope Foundation. I have a case before the Inter-American Court because the Bolivian government violated my human rights. When I was a child, I was repeatedly raped and tortured by an adult family member, and when I sought help in the Bolivian justice system, instead of supporting me and helping me, they created more harm and violated my rights. I had to become my own lawyer to be able to take this case as far as it's reached. It is very difficult to have a case be heard by the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. You have to first prove that there was a human rights violations against you, and two, that you've exhausted every single recourse that the government provides for you. In my case, this happened. Then you take your case to the commission, and which I took in 2010, and the commission gives a bunch of recommendations to the government to try to fix what they've done. And only after the government fails to abide by these recommendations, then the commission sends it to the court, the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. So it's been a really long process. In this case, Bolivian did not take the recommendations of the commission, and the commission sent it to the Inter-American Court in 2019. So taking a case or presenting a case before the Inter-American Court is considered a measure of last resort. And it only happens after the commission has not been able to resolve the matter in a non-contentious way. The Bolivian government is being prosecuted because, one, they failed to act with strict due diligence to prevent, investigate, and sanction crimes of sexual violence that were committed against me. Two, the state failed to provide effective judicial remedies to me and failed to ensure and respect my rights for a fair trial. Three, the state violated my rights to be treated with integrity and free from inhumane treatment. Four, the Bolivian government failed to protect my rights to be treated with honor and dignity. Five, the Bolivian government failed to uphold my right to be treated with equal protection. And six, Bolivia has failed its duty to take necessary measures to prevent sexual violence within its jurisdiction. I don't gain anything personally from this case. I understand that in most cases, petitioners before the court seek some type of remedy from the harms they have personally suffered. But in my case, I'm not seeking for any remedies for me, like compensatory damages or punitive damages or money. I don't gain anything from this. On the contrary, this process has taken a lot from me. I have faced defamation, character assassination, where I have had multiple people trying to say that I'm doing this because I am seeking money or because I want fame, and horrible things said about me. I have faced death threats against my person, my family, and the people I work with. So honestly, it has taken a toll in my life to continue taking this process all the way to the Inter-American Court. What I want is for the Bolivian government to improve the way they treat child survivors of sexual violence. I'm looking for the Inter-American Court of Human Rights to set standards of how governments throughout the region should treat victims of sexual violence. I have continued this process, and I've persevered for 20 years because I have hope. Because I have a dream, and I believe that it is possible to prevent other children from experiencing what I've experienced. I want to do everything in my power and everything that I can so that no child has to go through what I went through. I want to make this world a safer place for my children, for your children, for every child in the world. What I'm seeking for is that this court create legal and due diligence standards on how to prevent, bring healing and justice to child victims of sexual violence. And I have specific 11 recommendations that I hope that this court will require the Bolivian government to take. The first one, and I just want to say that this is not only for Bolivia, but most of the region need to improve in these practices. So the first one is elimination of the statute of limitation for cases of sexual violence. 2, to codify incestuous sexual violence as a crime in the legal code when perpetrated by an adult against a child under age 18. In many countries, incest is not a crime. It is just an aggravating factor, which means you first have to prove that there is rape. However, I believe that incest should be considered a crime where there is an adult member having sexual relationships with a child in their family. Every child should be able to feel safe in their home, and if an adult is having this type of contact with a child, that should be a crime in itself. 3, base the codification of sexual crimes on consent rather than intimidation, physical violence, or psychological violence, but on whether there was consent or not consent, and the various presumptions against consent. 4, promote the use of plea bargains, the full admission of guilt in the exchange of a less than maximum sentence in cases of sex crimes against children and adolescents. And I know there's a lot of contentions about this, but my goal here is how do we protect children? Not only have they suffered sexual violence, but now they have to go through a arduous trial where they will suffer more trauma. So how do we prevent this traumatic experience of facing the aggressor and facing trial, and at the same time hold responsible to those who are committing these types of crimes? And we know that children who have been sexually abused need justice for their healing recovery. And so if we can get them the justice and prevent them from going to trial, we should promote this type of things. I have worked with over 2,000 children who have been sexually abused, and I have seen the traumatic impact that going to court can produce to them. So if we can minimize that, I hope we can do it. 5, prioritize the best interests of children and adolescents when managing cases of child sexual violence. 6, develop and implement policies and practices for capturing and recapturing those suspected and convicted of sex crimes against children. In my case, it's been 20 years, and we're still waiting for the Bolivian government to bring back my aggressor so that we can continue the trial. 7, train and accredit justice system actors in holistic management of sex crimes against children and adolescents. And this includes the new paradigm of forensic interviewing and forensic medical examinations. They need to be trained on the latest research, on the latest scientific research on how sexual violence crimes occur and how to manage them and how to treat them. We can't have just anyone managing these cases. 8, create a justice observatory for cases of sexual violence against children and adolescents. Someone needs to be overseeing this type of crime. 9, establish specialized protection systems for child and adolescent victims of sexual violence. 10, provide specialized support services for child and adolescent victims of sexual violence and their families, including security and protection, therapy. We know the tremendous impact this has on children, and the government needs to have implemented practices to help them heal and to protect them. And last but not least, on the area of prevention, to institute mandatory training programs in educational centers that cover 1, children and adolescents' rights, 2, the dynamics of sexual violence, 3, social norms that contribute to sexual predation, and 4, how to get help for suspected or confirmed sexual violence. I want to end by saying that I'm part of the BRAVE movement, which is a movement of survivors who were affected by child sexual violence, who are using their life and their experiences to make this world a safer place. We are brave, so children can be safe.